Oh dear gosh, that didn't work.
Alrighty, good afternoon all. About to go live is the Ocarina of Time race. And on. You can hear the racers furiously practicing before we get on going. A hotly competitive race coming up for you. This is the Australian Speedrunning Marathon, racing money for Beyond Blue. At the moment, we've raised $11,000. We originally had a goal set, conservative goal, admittedly, conservative goal of $5,000. So that's been doubled, and then some. So that's fantastic. Not much more else to say than that. I'll let the runners introduce themselves. Take it away.
You wanna go first, Tripp?
Sure, why not? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to some OOT for Australian Speedrun Marathon. I'm Tripp.
And I'm MikamiHero. Nice to meet you all again.
I hope everyone's enjoyed the marathon for the past couple of days and get a second dosing of OOT. So, Mika and I are going to be racing a category called GSR, which stands for Ganondorf Source Requirement. And I bet I saw actually earlier today in chat, why do we call it GSR?
Well,
So I figured I might as well get it out of the way while we have some time. So initially this category, way back in the day, used to be called No RBA, No Wrong Warp, because the only item manipulation glitch that was discovered at the time was Reverse Bottle Adventure. Eventually things like Get Item Manipulation got found, so they had to change the name to No IM Wrong Warp. Then eventually someone made the point of, well, when you death warp on the warps in the Shadows and Spirit cutscenes, when you die, you end up back at the start of the temple, which is the intended spot you're meant to end up. So does it count as a wrong warp? And so because of that, the whole community had to have a huge argument about what counts as a wrong warp.
oh my goodness, holy crap.
So in the end, it was decided that those death warps, I don't think officially count as wrong warps, but we wanted to keep the category more or less the same as a legacy route. So we came up with the compromise of Ganondorf Source Requirement, because then the category is its own sort of thing and it can be defined by its own rules, and the category name doesn't affect when glitches and stuff get discovered.
Yeah, there was a few names being tossed around at that point, I remember as well, right? There was like GSR, there was SSG, just acronym central, and we were just like, just pick one. And we were
EGR, and it was just like OMG, just, yeah, fuck, pick one.
Imagine if it was just called OMG.
So eventually, No I Am Wrong Warp got shifted to a category extension where you are allowed to do those cutscene skips, and that's the only real key difference, other than a few glitches here and there. And it's not as commonly run as GSR. GSR seems to be the main sort of just staple. Yeah. So that's why we call it GSR. And the main thing is no item manipulating, no wrong warping. So this is a really good category to emphasize a lot of movement glitches and out of bounds stuff, and being really optimal with movement and pathing and stuff like that.
It's also a really good category for like new runners to pick up as well, because there's a lot of good entry level strats you can do. So if anyone is keen after watching this to learn, we can both point you in like a direction of great resources, if I think they're still around.
Yeah, more than happy to answer questions as well. Did we have file names?
Yeah, so Mikami, your file name's going to be Mitch with a capital M, and
Mitch.
Tripp, your file name's going to be Nick with a capital N.
Alright, Mitch and Nick.
Where's N?
Oh yeah, Stan, to answer your question, it's just a brace on my arm. I've got a sports injury, so to make speedrunning a bit less painful, I wear this wrist brace. An automail arm, yeah, pretty much. Bionic arm.
Just did Nick with a space at the end so that it's even 5 frames on the names, because every time your name gets read, it has to load that many characters. So just to make it even.
Oh, Tripp giving me the homie character.
Who knows, man? We tied before. All
Yeah,
right. Should we count down from 5?
Sounds good.
Alrighty, Rick. Good luck, dude.
You too, buddy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
So I guess the first thing off the bat, if anyone was tuning into the marathon earlier in the week and happened to see my No Wrong Warp run, I showcased a lot of new glitches involving a technique called SRM, or stale reference manipulation. I guess it's a blessing, but also kind of a hindrance that we don't have to do any of that in this category because it's banned, which saves a lot of nerves because that trick is very volatile. One wrong move will crash things. At the same time, though, we don't get to see any super cool new stuff, but again, we'll get to see a lot of cool out of bounds things and movement strategies.
Yeah, so this, as Tripp said earlier, it's just this category comes down to a lot of fundamentals as well, because you don't have access to all these crazy glitches like wrong warping and crazy item manips. It just comes down to some, I wouldn't say basic tricks, but more restrictive tricks, and then you do get to see more of the game. So I guess that's a blessing, as you would say, right, Tripp?
Yeah. We get.
So here we're just mashing through text. There's nothing too special about that, except that sometimes when we're mashing through text, you'll see like a blue box or a blue arrow right at the end of the text box. That just means our mashing wasn't optimal. Every time you see that blue box, you waste at least a frame. The game runs at like 20 to 25 FPS, so you know, you see 20 of those boxes, you've essentially lost a second.
And over the course of the round.
Every second counts, man.
every frame, Doug.
Every frame.
This is why we all get arthritis really early, because that mashing's important.
Case in point, I've got a wrist brace and Tripp has a cushion underneath his wrists to like prop his arm up a bit. So
yeah, I have a giant Snorlax here that I use to rest my hands on. Do highly recommend getting a big Snorlax pillow for your hands.
I need to get one. I need to get like a big Pokemon or something.
So the first thing that Ray and I are going to be doing is getting the sword out the bat and a shield. And pretty similar to a lot of runs, we're just going to be dipping out of the forest as quickly as possible. It is interesting to note, depending on what console you play on for this route, there are a few different methods of actually escaping the forest. It just so happens that N64 happens to be ever so slightly faster for this category because they have some version exclusive glitches. And they get a couple more movement tricks in both the Child's section and in the Shadow Temple.
Yeah.
But neither of us play on N64, so...
Because it's slow. I mean, what? Well, yeah, as Tripp said, N64 like has the ability to access some certain glitches that we don't have available on the Wii Virtual Console. But having said that, although those tricks save time, it does end up losing a bit more time due to lag. So it's been a big debate for the last couple of years which console's actually faster. But I think we all agree now that they're pretty much even. Like, you can play on either one and can still like get absolutely ridiculous times.
Competitive, yeah, on either console. It really just comes down to what you prefer. There are pros and cons to both consoles, for sure. So, I know the top 2 runners at the moment, one of them plays on VC, one of them plays on N64, and they could bop each other at any time.
It really comes down to that. Either one of them can just be like, hi, I feel like playing good today, and then just wreck each other.
Mm-hmm.
So here, Tripp and I are just grabbing the sword, and then gonna get some rupees to buy a shield, and then just gonna dip.
annoying mechanic about this game that I should mention is that when coming out of crawl spaces, there is a point in time for 1 frame where all of your inputs get reversed. So even though I hold left to side hop left out of that crawl space, it inverts so then I side hop right. So I just got that there, which is not intended to waste time.
It's so annoying when that happens as well. Oh my goodness.
You end up doing reading percent and then it's all, yeah, not good. So a neat thing we can do to escape the forest early here is we can come up to this dude. We affectionately call him Pokey.
Yeah.
And what you can do is actually shiv the wall on the left side, and that clips you between... that the recoil gets you stuck between Pokey's actor. And then because you also get a glitch called ISG, or Infinite Sword Glitch, it kind of... a byproduct of that glitch is that it doesn't let you fall off ledges or get pushed off things. So we can use that to pretty much clip inside Pokey and then clip outside Pokey. Sounds weird. But basically he has a radius around the entrance of the Kokiri forests there. So we can actually roll under him because he just sort of tracks around in a big circle.
Yeah. So Tripp did the variation of using ISG. I managed to get another variation of that trick just now, which is using what's called a water extended super slide. If you watch Tripp's run on Thursday, he did pretty much that exact same trick coming out of the shop, where you basically just get like a lot of momentum backwards coming out of water, and then you're able to clip into Pokey and at very specific angles. If you run right into Pokey and then talk to him at a specific frame, you're able to clip through him as well, because it's kind of like what Tripp said with ISG, where 2 actors can't really be in the same spot. This one is just we have enough speed to just kind of push past him. But the West Escape variation is really, really finicky. Like, I got it there and that was pure luck. Like, Tripp knows how much I missed that.
Do it, like, because I don't know what I'm doing on how to get the angles right and everything like that. I just say bugger it. I just west there and then clip out the old-fashioned way. It's still faster just to slide to the exit.
It is, yeah.
Rather than just backwalking there. So you save a little bit of time, but I don't save the full amount of time because it's kind of complicated.
So yeah, it looks like Tripp's going for this owl skip here, and I don't have enough balls to go for it.
So yeah, as you'll notice, Ray's talking to this owl up in the tree. His name's Kebora Gibora, and he's kind of just telling you about, like, you know, where to go and guiding the player on what to do initially. So what I've done is I've done an ESS recoil off the tree trunk there. And what that lets me do is that while I'm in that state, the game thinks that Link is busy and can't be interacted with. So then the cutscene or the text boxes for the owl never actually start. And the reason why that's useful in this route is that we can save a bit of time based on the time of day. So we have to wait until day to come through in order to get to Hyrule Castle, or into Zelda's courtyard rather. Because during the night, it's not open to us. So if we waste a little bit of this time of day early in the run, we don't have to spend a lot of time waiting for time of day to change at the castle. We can pretty much just get there and go into the castle immediately. And that saves a couple of seconds. So there are a few owls to skip in the run. That was the first one there. There's also one outside of Kakariko that both of us skip with a Wes. We will also skip him again coming back out of Kakariko. And then there will be a final owl skip before going into Hyrule Castle, which I'll try and do.
So yeah, it looks like Tripp may be behind at the moment, but he's actually not that far behind because of the time of day he mentions. So the trick alone wastes time, but because of like time of day stuff, it actually ends up saving a bit of time over what I just did. but like I said, I don't have enough balls to go for it.
Yeah, because if you end up missing any of the owl skips at any point, or if your movement gets a little bit scuffed up, there's a chance that you'll not make it to Kakariko before nighttime actually starts. And we need to arrive in Kakariko while it's still daytime in order to actually do a few things to actually complete the run. Otherwise, we have to spend a lot of time like waiting for time of day to change, and then change again, and then change again. It can be very, very messy.
So yeah, Tripp and I just did a trick there called Ocarina Dive, and to answer a question in chat, no, I wasn't waiting for him. I actually missed the first cycle, because I rely on getting something called inverted camera, just so I can see where the Skulltula is, but, sorry, the flaming skull. But because I missed the inverted camera, I decided to play it safe and just wait for him a little bit.
Also trying to go for inverted camera, but I missed it in my attempt, so you have to use audio cues of like the wings flapping on the monster to backflip onto it, and that's just a little bit dodgy. It feels much nicer to just see what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you miss the first cycle, it's maybe you just have to wait for him again.
Pretty much.
So I just skipped the owl outside of Kakariko again. So what you can do, actually, what's convenient is that whenever Link pulls the stick, there's about 4 frames of animation where, again, the game considers Link to be busy, and he can't be interacted with in that state. So if I pull the stick just outside of Kakariko there, it actually lets me bypass the text trigger for the owl a second time. So that's 3 out of 4 owl skips done. And we're going to make our way to Hyrule Castle. Picking up a few rupees on the way, because after our trip to Hyrule Castle, we're going to want to take a trip to the shop and just quickly buy a shield.
I got debated by the chain just now. It wouldn't flick me up. So...
okay, I missed the owl skip here, unfortunately. So, what's meant to happen there is that if I can pull my stick, again, it interrupts, or it doesn't let the text trigger actually go ahead, and lets me climb the vines. I buggered up my setup there, unfortunately, so I missed the vines. Because these vines are particularly finicky for some reason. But what you can also do is on a particular frame, once you've climbed the top, which is about there, you can equip bomb shoes, and then again, pulling your stick and slashing the sword will give you the it will put Link again in that state where he can't be interacted with, and it will let you bypass the owl text trigger.
So that's what normally, I just tried, yeah, I missed it.
So normally with all of these owl skips combined, it saves about 20 seconds. But unfortunately, because I missed the final one, which is like the most important one, I'm not going to save that time. So we should end up pretty much even, I think, by this point now.
Yeah, because I missed that. I missed the higher trigger just now.
So you'll see here that it's already turned it's turned daytime for me. I think for Mikami, he'll probably end up getting to the crawl space while it's still nighttime, so we can kind of emphasize the difference here.
No, I got botched by the chain, so I'm actually here right at daytime.
Nah. So you'll notice as well that we have very specific amounts of health. I actually failed the damage boost here to get into this little crawl space, but there's a backup we can use there to not take damage, but still explode our way over to the crawl space. Bomb shoes in this route are actually really, really valuable because they help with a trick later on called Spirit Hover, which I think no one will argue against is the hardest trick in the run. And I got caught by guards.
So
the last one.
I got caught by the last one. Well, not the... Yeah.
Yeah, I got caught by the last one too. Ow!
Oh, fun.
Classic GSR!
Classic guards, oh my goodness. Yeah, these guards are... It's something interesting to note about these guards is that if you side hop frame perfectly, which is every 7 frames, even if the guard's vision were to spot you, a frame perfect... Oh my goodness, I got caught again. Frame perfect side hops mean that the guards won't catch you, but I just decided to mash there and I paid for it. So this time I'll play a little bit safer.
Yeah, the guards can't actually catch you if you're in mid-air, and I think they need 2 frames of you being on the ground for them to register that you're actually gonna get caught. So as long as you're staying in the air for, well, like pretty much the whole time, then you can avoid their sight.
Yeah. So ideally, you like at a high level, you can risk it by going for the frame perfect side hops, but most of the time depends on the situation, because these guards can sometimes have really weird patterns. We might end up waiting a little bit or just absolutely like gunning it. Like if you watch some of the high level runners, like as Tripp said, like the top two runners, you'll see them just pretty much just YOLO it the entire time.
They'll gun it every single time, yeah, regardless of where they are.
Yeah, because they can't afford to lose that time waiting for the guards to come down. So now that we've both successfully got through the guards, we just have a cutscene, and Tripp and I have this in-joke of just shoving the stick in Zelda's face.
Oh, sticky situation.
Sticky situation, exactly. But if you have any donations, go for it, Softy.
Yeah, perfect timing. I was just about to ask. We do have a couple. Vot donated $32.69. Saying good luck to Mikami and Tripp. Looking forward to the final runs of the event. Much love to the Oz speedruns, runners, organisers, and Tech. Yeah, special shout out to Tech. They always do a fantastic job. We're using a new framework this year based on NodeCG. For those who are familiar, fantastic, works brilliantly, and I know it's a lot of effort to get it involved. And also running. Also, big shout out to TripppAU, who did the layouts, which are looking fantastic. I'm sure chat will agree. They are looking fantastic. MPC, our previous runner, also donated $107.50, saying, I forgot to count how many bonks I made, so here's 100 instead.
Wow.
Yeah. A bit of a bonk party sometimes, but as I said, a very enjoyable run that certainly was, and a very enjoyable this run. It is cutscene seems to be about over, so I'll kick it back over to the runners.
Thanks, Softy. So yeah, this cutscene that Tripp and I are in now, it's basically the precursor to getting Zelda's Lullaby, which we need because the category is called Ganondorf Source Requirement, which means we need to get every item in order to fight Ganondorf. And one of the items we need to finish off Ganondorf are the light arrows. And in order to use the light arrows, you need both a quiver and magic. So we only get Zelda's Lullaby just to get magic. There are other ways to get Zelda's Lullaby that involve like some crazy glitches, like as Tripp mentioned earlier, item manipulation. But because this category bans it, we're pretty much forced to get it legitimately. But we will have a bit of a shortcut, which I think Tripp should be coming up to now, if my estimates are correct.
Yeah, almost there. So, the interesting... excuse me, sorry. The interesting thing about how cutscenes and like rewards work in this game is that as soon as you enter... Sorry, I'm counting side hops and I'm failing. Yeah. What you can do is that as soon as you enter a cutscene, normally whatever reward it is, be it the medallion or the warp song or whatever, it actually gives you that reward as soon as you enter the cutscene. You don't actually have to play anything to learn the song, quote unquote. So what we can do is that if we enter the cutscene at the same time as dying, the game will then give us Zelda's Lullaby without us having to watch the cutscene of us learning Zelda's Lullaby, which saves upwards, I think, of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a pretty long cutscene, that one. It's like massive. Because Impa teaches you the song and then she takes you out to like Mark outside of Hyrule Field to like have a bit of like a pep talk to you. And it's pretty long. But both Tripp and I got that successfully entering the cutscene.
I accidentally wasted another chew, so my spirit hovers are going to be very, very, very scary because I have 2 chances of actually making them happen.
It's alright, you got this, buddy.
So this race is going to be interesting.
So then we both just bought Hylian Shield there because we'll be needing that as adult. Our first stop is actually the graveyard, and there is actually a grave that has a Hylian shield in it, but because we've already got the rupees just from where we were coming from and to, it's just quicker to buy it. So Tripp should be coming up to the door of time skip now, which we'll both have to do. This trick's really, really cool. The developers failed to patch this door completely. There's actually the tiniest of gaps between the wall and the door, and by getting a very specific angle, and I timed that a bit early, Tripp got it successfully, and I failed. But basically by getting a very specific angle and then doing something called a backwards side hop, you're able to actually clip through that tiny gap, and then by jump slashing at a very specific frame, you have 2 frames to do it, you're able to clip back in bounds and then skip the door of time.
This allows us to skip doing any of the child dungeons at all, and it's probably like the single biggest sequence break that we have for OOT.
Oh yeah, it was massive when it was found. It still is pretty massive considering, like, all things. There we go, finally got it. So now both Tripp and I are going to become Big Lonk.
Large Lonkus.
Large Lonkus indeed. So this category that Tripp and I are running, it's actually got a lot of cutscenes. One of the interesting stats is this category is like on average an hour and a half, an hour and 20, an hour and a half long. There's a category that other runners do called glitchless, and with glitchless, you basically have to watch every single cutscene. Because of how short this category is and how restrictive it is, you actually watch more cutscenes per minute of gameplay in this category than you do in glitchless, which is almost a 4-hour run.
Even in any percent, I think this category still edges out any percent, which is 8 minutes long, where 3 minutes of that is just the intro cutscene. I'm not even fooling.
Yeah,
it's 5 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, people used to ask me why don't I like this category so much. I tell them that, like, you actually idle for a lot longer than you're actually playing, and then people never believe me. But then they ask other runners, and they're like, "Huh, it's actually true." So yeah, Tripp and I are just going through another cutscene now. So if you have any other donations, just pop through now. Go ahead.
I was gonna say more if we have more donos.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not just at the moment, but I will plug quickly that we are the Australian Speedrunning Marathon 2020, raising money for Beyond Blue, a fantastic charity supporting the raising of awareness and reducing of stigma in regards to mental health issues. In regards to incentives, we are all out of those, but absolutely feel free to pop a bit more money in. We're in the home stretch of the marathon. It's just this neck-in-neck race that's going on right now, followed by Donkey Kong Country, which is run by the absolute legend Nay _. In regards to that, as said, our goal this year was about 5 grand for Beyond Blue, and we've doubled that and then some. So absolutely fantastic. A big shout out to all the runners, all the donators, everyone who's just chilling in chat. It's made possible through everyone's effort. And yeah, we're doing a great thing. Keep it up. And I'll kick it back to this, as said, neck-in-neck race.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
But yeah, as Ray said before, we're gonna. It's such an interesting note for VC players. The first stop is to head to the graveyard. For N64 players, the first stop they head to is Dodonga's Cavern, because they have the ability to get bombs early, because they are able to utilize having bombs early a lot better than VC can, because they have a few access to a few exclusive glitches. So the version we run on VC is version 1.2, and most N64 versions are version 1.0, and they have some exclusive glitches. So that save about, I think it's 20-ish seconds overall compared to VC.
I think that's sounds about right.
I think the tricks overall save about 40 seconds, but they lose about half of that because of general lag and loading times and stuff like that, especially during like the Ganondorf fight. On N64, it's basically a slideshow.
Yeah, pretty much. I was contemplating just now whether or not I should just do bombs first now just to showcase the route, but I can't remember how to do the bloody clip in Shadow Temple. I haven't done it in so long. I'm like, wait, how do we do this again? Otherwise, it would have been really. I would have been like, yeah, I'll showcase it, like, and how the divergence happens, but then it kind of converges again. But because I can't remember one of the tricks, so I'm just gonna play we're just gonna do the same route. So Sheik just telling us here to go to Kakariko, and you saw Tripp do this just now, but basically the Door of Time. The reason we save and reset there is because the Door of Time is actually still blocking us, even though we skipped it. We didn't actually clear it. So Child Link has ways to kind of do what's called reverse Door of Time skip, but as adult, it's just faster to save and reset, because when you're not in a dungeon, like if you're in the overworld or somewhere, if you save and reset, it will put adult Link back in the Temple of Time, which is convenient for us because it puts us on like the opposite side of the door that's blocking us. And when you're Child Link and you're not in a dungeon, it puts you in his house in Kokiri Forest. So we'll be utilizing that a fair bit throughout this run. At some points we'll be like save and resetting just to be able to warp to an easier place as per game, or sometimes we'll just save and not continue.
Well, not a wrong walk. So we're allowed to do those ones.
Yeah, they're intended.
Also, if anyone can guess the Dampe race times between, say, 47 seconds and like 60 seconds, every correct guess on either race, I'll give $5. Why not?
Yeah, I'll do the same actually. Every correct guess, I'll give $5.
Alright, I'm in for 49.
Alright.
Pick any number, chat, between 47 and let's say 60.
Alright. They have no faith in us. Oh, Aggie going for the 46.
Six.
Alright. I got to channel my inner Dampe now. So I let that Poe hit me as I open the grave just to interrupt the pulling animation, and it's just slightly faster than pulling the grave all the way out.
Right, how many 51s do we have? I see 2, 3. I think 3 51s for me. Dampe race, we're just grabbing the hook shot. The hook shot's pretty important. It helps us do the next trick coming up, which actually allows us to get into the Shadow Temple early. I'm not 100% sure how the next trick sort of works. I'm hoping Ray can maybe give a bit better of an explanation.
Yeah.
But it has some funky mechanics when we roll into walls with the hook shot.
Yeah, anyone? Okay, I see I got a 47, so I see 147 from Nick. That's 5 from me. 55, oh my god. Oh.
Who said 55? A ye of little faith.
How many, ye little faith.
To be honest.
No faith in me whatsoever. No faith in either of us whatsoever.
So I think there was 3 51s and what, 147? I think.
Yeah.
So that's 20 bucks.
Yeah, I'll give $20, don't worry. We'll do it. We'll do
Yeah,
it.
okay.
It's for a great cause. But yeah, so what Tripp just did there was called hookshot jump. He said he hopes that I would know a bit more, but I don't either. But from what I remember, it's that as we have pulled this hookshot and we bonk this wall, the game doesn't reset the Y direction momentum that we have. So then as it's kind of in like this, you know, repetitive state, we push hookshot on a specific frame and then it kind of recoils and gives us like that Y velocity back. I've asked several people about this trick and they've all given me like different answers and I can never remember any of them. I'm just like, okay, I'll remember that, and I never remember for whatever reason. So
yeah, one of those things that it just works. It just works.
So then we use that to get on top of this seam, and then we get ISG off that Poe, so then we don't fall off the seam. And because of the way we walk across the seam, part of the Shadow Temple entrance is not loaded, so we just waltz in the Shadow Temple willy-dilly without having to use Din's fire or fire arrows to light all the torches. Or trip safety save if you haven't done so after hover boots.
Yes, okay, I will. Because I have very good shoes.
Yeah, so I just reminded Trip to safety save because, like you said earlier, bomb shoes are really precious in this run. So, and the trick that we're about to do is called boat skip, and that will require us to use 2 bomb shoes. So it would be ideal if we didn't waste any. And if we do a safety save, then we can just try again, and then at least the run can still be completed. So Dead Hand still gives me the heebie-jeebies after all these years. I missed the second cycle. Thanks, game.
There's a lot of RNG in this route, depending on where he spawns. So,
Yeah.
as Ray said before, I just come up to a trick called boat skip. So, what's really handy about movements in this game, like side hopping and ESS turns and all that stuff, is that they all have like fixed. Sorry, I'm just concentrating on this
focus.
while also trying to explain it. They all have like a fixed distance, so it's really easy to make setups for them. So what we can do here is that we can actually clip out of bounds and head down to the room that's just before the boss room. And all the collision and everything is still loaded, but all the textures don't load. So we're able to walk around on all the platforms, but we just can't see anything. And then we can do another damage boost to pretty much put Link underneath the boss door and boost him into the loading zone. So that way we're able to skip 90% of the Shadow Temple.
So I'm just about to do the boss key skip now. So how this kind of works is, I'll explain in just a moment.
Working trick at the same time.
There we go. Alright, cool. So how that boss key skip works is we're rolling off a ledge at a very specific angle, and on the very first frame that Link grabs a ledge, if there's a wall behind the ledge, I think Link's able to clip inside the ledge, which is called ledge clip. It was discovered many years ago by accident, actually, and then with that, it actually came with it like a slew of like different sequence breaks. One of them being able to get past that that door that's blocking us to Bongo Bongo. So as we clip through the door, we then press target. Give me one sec. Bongo. We'll just get past Bongo, and then I can do a quick explain. Yeah, so when we clip through the ledge, when we grab the ledge on the first frame, we press target, so then Link clips into the ledge, and then the explosion hits us in past the door, and that's how we're able to trigger the loading zone. Otherwise, just by clipping into the ledge, we wouldn't trigger the loading zone. And it's also really nice because we don't take damage from that explosion as well. At least with that setup that we both did.
Yeah, what's convenient is that at the end of Link's rolling animation, you get a certain amount of invincibility frames. So it's pretty helpful for being able to take like explosive damage or certain forms of like damage without actually taking the damage. So it's actually what makes Hessing possible, because we get the invincibility frames from the roll, and it's able to give us a recoil at like a high speed. We can then use that speed value and use it to make us like slide backwards really fast and get around really fast.
So here we're just in the Shadow Medallion cutscene. Did you grab the heart as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so that heart container we grabbed is not compulsory, but given how risky it is to play the rest of the run with 3 hearts, we opt to grab that heart. And it's not that much slower to grab it, and it can save you a whirlwind of pain later on.
It only loses like 2 seconds, but it makes it so that the run is just so much safer to complete on all fronts. Especially we're not even at the hardest part of the run yet.
Oh yeah, Mirror Shield.
Shadow Temple can get very, very, very stressful because a lot of those inputs are frame perfect or only have 2 frames of window of opportunity, and especially when you're trying to do it fast and without saving as well, it can be quite panic-inducing sometimes. But Luckily, it looks like we both got through it fine.
Yeah, we both go through Shadow fine. I had a bit of a hiccup with Actually, no, everything was okay. Bongo had to get second try ISG.
It's okay.
So, yeah.
Another good thing about ISG is that because the sword is active for every frame, we're able to hit enemies every single frame, which makes bosses really, really easy. So normally Bongo is a pretty tough boss in terms of how much health he has. I think he has like some of the highest health out of all the bosses.
I think so, yeah.
I just lost another chew.
Oh no, be careful.
I have one chew, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the hovers anymore.
I believe. I believe. So now we're just making our way to Dodongo's cavern because, as Tripp said, although having bomb chews and early explosives is nice, we unfortunately can't refill bomb chews because we haven't completed Dodongo's cavern, which means we can't buy them in Goron City. The only way we can refill bomb chews legitimately is to find them in chests. Unfortunately, the chest that we got as Child Link in Bottom of the World is like the most accessible one we have, at least for a long time. So we opt to go to Dodongo's cavern just to get bombs. That way we've got another set of another type of explosive, and it's also a refillable type of explosive because you can just get bomb drops from like grass patches, pots, and all that schmozzle. So nothing too crazy about Dodongo's cavern. It's basically just some movement that we have to do while avoiding keys, lava damage, and stuff.
Pretty straightforward. The only thing you have to really be careful of is just the cycle of the first room with the platforms. Unfortunately, because I missed the first tube, my cycles were kind of off, so I lost a lot of time there. But otherwise, this is pretty straightforward. As adult, DC is a breeze because we can skip most of the dungeon because a lot of the dungeon is based around Child Link being a shorty. So because adult Link is much taller, he's able to pretty much bypass a lot of the things that makes this a child dungeon.
Pretty much, actually, yeah. It's all the fact that Adult Link is like a bit taller makes like a world of difference.
This chest here has a bomb bag with 20 bombs in it. That's our source requirement for bombs, which is super helpful because bombs are used like probably the most useful item. I would argue they're probably the most useful item for glitching in OOT because they can just do a lot of cool things in terms of like bomb movement, clipping stuff. Bomb chews can also do like item manipulating stuff, so they have quite a lot of applications.
Bombs and bottle.
Bombs and bottle, yeah, bottles definitely.
The two.
Yeah, I was about to say, when a category is named after the bottle that is glitching, it's a glitchy item.
So now I just got my bomb bag as well, and then just gonna dip out of here like Tripp is. And our next stop is actually going to be the fairy fountain because we need magic later on to fire that pesky light arrow at Ganondorf. And it's funny because like that used to be one of the biggest bottlenecks in Ocarina of Time speedrunning, having to get arrows, light arrows, and magic to beat Ganondorf. And then with one of the any percent routes that Tripp and I used to run, we do a wrong walk from Deku Tree to, you probably, some of you who've watched OOT must have seen it, you walk from the Deku Tree to part of the collapse of Ganon's tower, and that pretty much bypassed all of that, so now there's even faster ways to beat the game, so yeah.
You just warp to the credits.
Yeah, nowadays we just do some jiggery pokery in the forest, walk through a house, and we warp into the credits. And that's any percent now. I've done runs of it. I remember some people in chat, like Tripp and Aggie would know. I spent 4 hours doing attempts that one night, and I didn't get a single run done because it's very easy to crash. And I was getting mad tilted. I was getting so tilted. I spent 4.5 hours, didn't get a single run done. I went to bed salty as, woke up the next morning, did one attempt past it, and I was like, I'm not doing any more runs, that's it, done. I was so salty that night, dude. When I went to bed.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people aren't super fond of the current 80% route because there isn't that much to it.
I was like, oh my goodness. I tell people not to do it. I'm like, play any other category except that.
Actively avoid it, yeah, it's pretty jank.
It's a massive bully. And the thing is, like, with the new 80% route for Ocarina of Time, there is a sequence of buttons you can press if you crash, and it gives you what's called like a debug dump. You can kind of see where things crashed, but with the current route, that debug dump is useless because it doesn't tell you exactly what went wrong. With some of the previous iterations, it did. So people are like, why don't you just bring up the debug dump? I'm like, it tells me nothing. So I don't even know why I crash sometimes. I can only guess, which makes it even more like, I'm gonna stop there.
That's the lesson we learned. So after Magic, we're going to be heading back through Goron City and Lost Woods to head towards the Minuet of Forest cutscene. And we're also going to be taking damage along the way to make sure that we're on a specific amount of health, because we're going to do another cutscene skip. It pretty much works exactly the same way as the Zelda's Lullaby cutscene skip did, if you remember that from earlier in the run. Same idea is that when you enter the cutscene, you receive the song immediately, and then we just die to make sure that we don't have to actually cop watching the cutscene.
Pretty much. So if there's any donations, now would be a pretty good time, Softy.
Yeah, and I can't say there's anything at the moment. I'll just give a quick condensed version of the plug as it works. I've done it quite a few times with the Australian Speedrun Marathon, raising money for Beyond Blue. We've raised over $11,000 this year, and a big thank you to everyone who's been involved in making that happen. Beyond Blue is a fantastic organisation, supporting the raising of awareness and reducing stigma in regards to mental health issues. Very, very relevant topics, especially in today's climate. It's why we've been supporting them since 2016. Hopefully we'll be continuing to do so in the future. Back to you.
Thanks, Softy. Shouts to ASM and Beyond Blue.
Where we can line up on this dude's butt, right between his booty. And if you pull a bum on that exact frame and just walk backwards, it happens to be conveniently lined up that Link will just die as soon as he enters that cutscene. And then what we do is that we normally we don't save and continue. In this case, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to save and not continue, because then this saves all of our progress, but then sets our entrance back to being the Temple of Time. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do...
So our next destination now is Spirit Temple. So the way we get to Spirit Temple is through Hyrule Field, and then we make our way through Gerudo Valley, Gerudo Fortress. We don't actually complete anything in Gerudo Fortress. We actually skip the big gate entirely using a method called gate skip. Can be a little... This section is easily the most scary of the run.
Actually, failed the Hess here about 3 or 4 times, and normally I have spare bombs with this route, but because I've accidentally wasted most of my chews, I have no spare bombs, so I'm just going to reset here and try again, keeping my bomb count healthy.
I think that's a smart idea, yeah. So this is the Hess that I'm doing now. As Tripp said, I've missed this Hess like so many times as well. Like I could be on like the best run for like ages and then just miss it like 5 times and go, okay, cool. No explosives now, thanks game.
It happens very, very frequently. So I just got it this time again. This time properly.
Tripp and I have both had runs where we're like minus 30 seconds, even minus 40 seconds at this split, and then this split happens and that run's dead.
Yeah.
And it just
run just eats it.
Completely guts us. So now I'm going to cross this bridge. Normally you need like Epona or Longshot to cross this bridge. There's other ways we can do it. We can actually do this without any explosives or hover boots. I did what's called a mega side hop there just to give us a bit more momentum backwards. I land on one part of the bridge, I equip hover boots, and then use that momentum to push myself across the bridge. You can also Hess across, which saves about 8 seconds over what I just did. You can do what's called Extend Arm, which just involves hookshot only, no explosives whatsoever, but it's really, really slow, and you only do that in certain categories where you're restricted on certain things like reverse dungeon order. So yeah, now I'm in Gerudo Fortress, and we're gonna skip. Oh, never mind. I got caught. Okay. So I was gonna showcase a method of skipping the gate, which I think Tripp will get to do. I just happened to roll at a bad angle and get caught by the guard, but it's fine because we still have other ways to skip the gate, which we call gate skip.
On the bright side, you saved 2 bombs now.
That's true. Explosive count is never a bad thing. Doing the gate skip that I was trying to do and Tripp will attempt saves about 15 seconds over what I do, but if you get caught, it's not the end of the world. It just means you don't get to capitalize on that juicy time save. But as Tripp said, you do have the luxury of having 2 extra bombs in your inventory. And as we both know, explosives are precious.
Yeah, extremely so. So I happened to be successful in landing it. Normally, as well, I would attempt to do what's called a half wasteland Hess here, but I'm just going to be really extra careful about my bomb count. But I'll explain gate skip real quick. So what we can do is if we get ISG, a side effect of ISG is that it doesn't let us fall off ledges. And another byproduct of shielding bomb damage while in the air is that it's trying to put Link to the ground, but because ISG doesn't let him fall, you kind of get pinned in the air. So what we can do with gate skip, and it's quite useful as well because you can be used on boss doors, is called a ground flip. So we can use the slight hovering we get from the ISG and the bombs, and then we can also use the damage from said bomb to push us really fast horizontally. And that can, in combination with having that slight bit of height and that horizontal momentum, can clip us through the gate. It also can clip you through a couple of different of the boss doors to get into the boss rooms without the key. We'll be showcasing that again a little later in the run.
So I attempted the first half Wasteland Hess that Tripp mentioned, but I avoided by accident, so just playing it safe now because first half Wasteland Hess, it's a bit scary. It saves 20 seconds if you can pull it off, but when our explosive count is as tight as this, sometimes we don't want to take that added risk.
Yeah. So coming up on the next trick here is probably the main run killer of this whole thing. Is called Spirit Hover.
Bless.
I'm very likely to fail it because of my lack of bomb chews. So if I'm gonna go quiet for a bit, I hope you'll understand why.
Cool,
and hopefully, if I land it, I'll or one of us lands it, we can give a bit of an explanation.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go a tad quiet as well because it's a bit of a scary trick.
I got it and I failed it. I psyched myself out, so I didn't get it.
Oh no.
So this is most likely a, well, I can continue the race and I can finish the run, but pretty much very likely to lose now unless Mika makes a pretty catastrophic mistake. But what's supposed to happen there is that you can hover up to the Silver Gauntlets chest, which hopefully Mika will land. And that skips me having to go through the dungeon, but because I failed it, I'm going to have to do some backups and head through the dungeon now.
No, I failed it too.
Well, that's the volatility of this run, so...
I hate this category so much!
Now it's still anyone's game, so
yeah.
Well, at least we get a little bit of an extended edition on the run now.
That's true.
So what's supposed to happen is that using a combination of those bombs and ISG and those chews, is that we can hover up to the Silver Gauntlets chest that's normally on the child-only side of the Spirit Temple. And why chews are important throughout all of this run is that they allow us to what's called unlock. It's been so long since I've done this backup, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that when you're hovering in the air, the camera actually locks. So you would have maybe seen just for a brief moment there that there was some letterboxing on the camera. That shows that the camera is sort of locked in that position, and we can't turn or change any of the angles or anything like that. So what makes chews really convenient is that they give us a slight window of opportunity to target the chew. And when we target the chew, it actually unlocks the camera for us. And when we unlock the camera, it allows us to spin around. So once we do about 4 or 5 hovers initially, do a spin around with the chew, and then do another 4 or 5, depending on which order you do them in, you can actually land on the seam just above the entrance to the to the spirit temple. That's the one we're doing. You can then climb that seam and hookshot onto the chest to then get onto the hand platform in the wrong way. And then once you get onto the hand platform, you can do a trick called the super slide, which then allows you to slide onto the other hand. And by that point, you can grab the mirror shield and then finish the rest of the spirit temple. But because we both failed the hover, we're going to have to do the old classic way.
Yeah, so getting Spirit Hover, if you pull it off, saves about 2.5 to 3 minutes over what we're doing now. But it's such a finicky trick, as Tripp said, because you can get some really weird cases, like, because those hovers are actually going back and also going up, sometimes you might get a little bit more backwards distance than up distance. And what happened with what I did there was I got too much back distance on one of my hovers, and as a result, when I backflipped, I ended up backflipping under the awning, which means that I was a bit too far back. A lot of things can happen. Sometimes you're not high enough. There's so many weird things. Sometimes you can get clipped by the explosion when you try to backflip and shield it mid-air because of ISG. It's just really annoying, to say the least.
It's one thing I find very interesting about OOT though, and I'm sure you both agree, and it's not as obvious for someone just in the chat just watching this, is how much OOT has developed, in that it's just like, oh, well, you know, whoops, didn't get that, that's unfortunate, oh, well, I can just do this, or this. Like, we've had an example just in the last 5 minutes. Gate skip, oh, whoops, we'll just do this in a different way. This, oh, well, we've got another way. There's just so many ways to do everything, because it's been so developed over the years as a speedrun.
That's really, really true, Softy. Yeah, like, a lot of the stuff that we tried to do but failed, and then we're doing the backup. The backup way of doing stuff was, as Softy said, the way we used to do things. And thankfully, it means that if we do screw something up, we have a ways to finish the run. Some other categories aren't so forgiving, but I guess that's one thing that's nice about this category, is that you're able to have ways to finish the run. That way, if you're a beginner, you can just play some of the more safer strategies and go from there.
The really nice thing about GSR is that pretty much in every situation it's completable. Like, there are only a very few situations in which, like, you will not be able to complete the run, but GSR is rather nice in that no matter how badly you mess up, a lot of the time there is still a way to finish a run. So you might have seen there, I died twice to this invisible hand here because I forgot the strats, because it's been a while since I've done this dungeon this way. So just a few things like that. Like, yes, I've died unfortunately, but we can still continue on with the run and actually finish in the end.
Yeah, that hand is really, really annoying as well.
Yeah. So this is what we mean by GSR is pretty much, it's a really wacky race category, because pretty much it's anyone's game at any point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, races can go back and forth depending on who screws up what. I've had races where I've been like at least a solid minute behind, but then my opponent's died to like Ganondorf, and then I'm like, oh, I might be able to take the lead now, and then it's just scary all around. It could be anyone's game, as Tripp said. So I just picked up the mirror shield now, and I'm gonna make my way back over to the main room, because we're actually gonna go fight Naburu Knuckle. So normally you would have to do some other parts of Spirit Temple to get the boss key, make the head crumble, and then make your way over to here. But we've actually got other ways to do it, so what that's gonna do now, it's called Statue Climb. So just using some really precise movements here, we can climb the shoulder of this statue, and then if all goes well, oh my goodness, that was close. Okay.
The good thing as well about Spirit Temple is that there's this pot here that as long as you don't collect the initial bomb drop, it just infinitely spawns new bombs. So you can get a quick little top up here, which is nice and convenient. I think I just wasted one.
Okay.
Ah.
Got through that door finally.
You're pulling me and you're not accidentally wasting all of them.
So Big Salt asked, am I going to do the head skip? I was practicing it earlier, Big Salt, but something was going really finicky with it that I didn't want to risk it in this race. So that's the trick that I just did there. As Tripp said earlier, we're able to use a slight hover, and then by pressing B at a certain point during the bombs, like the bomb that we place on the ground, by pressing B at a certain point, we get like almost max acceleration downwards, and we're able to use that to like clip through certain things like doors. So that's how we're able to clip through that door just now. So now we're going to find Naburu Knuckle. There's a skip you can actually do here to kill Naburu Knuckle and skip the cutscene that plays afterwards. If you do decide to go for it, it saves like 18 seconds if you pull it off optimally, but if you screw it up, it wastes like almost 6 minutes. So unless you're like really neck and neck in a race, or you really need to go for like the strats for like PBs like we do, in a race, I never go for it.
Just did a little safety trick there. It's kind of weirdly pointless, but it kind of helps just for safety. Is that you can actually clip through the barred off door before the first knuckle fight. And the reason why that's helpful is just in case you accidentally get hit or die to this knuckle, it will spawn you back on the mirror shield hand, not all the way back at the start of the dungeon. So because I've already died twice and I'm already fairly behind, I don't really want to risk any more deaths in the dungeon.
Nah, makes sense. I actually completely forgot about that until you did. I was like, oh yeah. So the reason Knuckles are so scary in this run is because every Knuckle hits you for 4 hearts. And we have exactly 4 hearts and probably aren't going to get any more. So if any Knuckle whacks us, it's pretty much like rip. And the reason why I didn't go for the Naburu Knuckle cutscene skip is because, as Tripp said, even though if he had died to that Knuckle, he would have ended up at the Mirror Shield chest instead. If we die at Naburu Knuckle, we actually end up at the start of the dungeon. So it's I don't know why that one, but yeah. I don't know why that one in particular puts us back at the start. It's like such a big kick. So now it's time for me to fight Twin Rover. This fight's pretty self-explanatory. One of these witches shoots fire, one of these shoots ice. You reflect one to hit the other. There's a bit of RNG in this because of the way they move, but we're able to control it in some ways, in that when one of the witches starts to charge up and fire, if we can spot the other one in our vision, we can quickly hookshot them like this, and it kind of keeps us spinning. That way, when the shot arrives and we reflect, we can hit the witch. And it takes 4 hits, and then we go on to phase 2. And Tripp and I have both lost many, many runs to these 2 witches as well. Just...
A lot of casual players really dig Twin River, like it's a really cool fight. But every speedrunner just hates it.
Oh yeah. I hate this fight so much.
She provides a lot of RNG.
Yeah, 30 seconds ahead. Ah, cool. Missed a shot. Rip. So now we're going to go on to phase 2. What almost happened there was one of the witches was going to fire again. And if you're not careful, she can easily add another 2 or 3 shots. So all you have to do is just hook shot the one that's about to fire after you've done 4. And that prevents it from going into extra cycles. So now we're on to phase 2. Thankfully with phase 2, the first 3 shots of Fusion Rover is going to be the same color. So we just need to charge 3 of them and then pummel her. Pretty much what Kyle said in chat, anyone's game, like if I make one big mistake, not even a big mistake, if I just make like a mistake, I could be really far behind. I guess that's one of the beauties and banes of this category. Tripp and I have both seen races where one of our friends called Nale, he was racing in a community tournament, which I'm still in. He was like, I think 10 minutes behind, but his opponent just made so many mistakes that he managed to come back and win the race at the end. Nice. Tripp just got the Nibiru cutscene skip as well. So
I was gonna say, I don't mean to brag, but I got the Nibiru cutscene skip.
No, I was like, oh my goodness, he's going for it. Nice.
And as you can see, like, I was stupidly close to just copping a hit and dying, because you might have saw I recoiled off her. I was very, very close to copping a hit and then basically just losing the race.
I saw that just now and I was like, oh no, please. But at least one of us got to showcase it. That was sick.
Hopefully this lets me catch up a little bit.
That's a solid 15 to 18 seconds that Tripp just got back as well. So, you know, any time save we take, we go for it, especially in PB attempts where we just go ham.
When you think about it, it's kind of more like 40 seconds because you had to watch it and then I skipped it and then say it still saved the time. So does it like count out that I still kind of like saved more?
No, you save time. Absolutely. What happens if I get bad collapse RNG?
That would just be unfortunate.
So I'm in the cutscene now where we get the Spirit Medallion. Tripp's doing Rover, which is what I just did. So if Tripp, you've got nothing else to add, I guess we could do donations. If we got any?
Yeah, do have a quick donation. Anna N donated $53.65. No comment, but thank you, of course, very much for that donation.
Thank you, Anna. Anna's one of like my closest friends, so thank you so much, Anna, for that donation. So now we got Spirit Medallion, and someone mentioned in chat earlier that how do we trigger the fight so early in this game, like Ganondorf, because we've only done 2 temples. The light arrows cutscene, which is what triggers the rest of the game, only checks to see if we've got Spirit Medallion or Shadow Medallion. It does a very lazy check. It doesn't bother checking that we've got all of them. It just checks those 2 because chronologically, those are the last 2 medallions you're meant to get, which is fortunate for us because it means that we only have to do 2 of the dungeons. So the reason we got Minuet earlier was because our next stop is, well, my next stop is Forest Temple. Tripp will be right behind me, where we're gonna go to Forest Temple just to pick up the bow. My
shield input didn't come out, so I died.
No,
which means
what?
I think I have to do all that again.
Oh no.
I think I am now out of the race, unfortunately, guys.
I mean, anything can happen, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. One's in chat for Tripp. Anything can happen. I have that happen sometimes with shield inputs too, where it just doesn't come out for whatever reason.
It's unfortunate. I don't think I'm going to be able to add much more because it's just going to be doing the same tricks I've just been doing. At least this time I don't have to go through the whole dungeon, I'll just have to
Go to that room, yeah. So yeah, the reason we come to Forest Temple is just so we pick up a bow in order to be able to fight that one pesky light arrow at Ganondorf. There's nothing too crazy about Forest Temple, it's just mainly movement. and making sure these Stalfos play a bit nice with us. Stalfos are also one of the most annoying things about this run because their movement is kind of random and they hit you pretty hard. A jump slash from a Stalfos does 2 hearts and yeah, it's not fun. Okay. Yeah. They basically tap dance around us and we just gotta adapt. Yeah, Grace. Spirit Temple is like easily the most infuriating section of this run. Even for a beginner who's just starting out with this category and they play Spirit Temple like a bit safer, like going through the slower way, it's still infuriating.
What I don't like about the Rover fight when you come back to it is that they just start straight away. Like, they don't even give you a chance to warm up. They're like, hey, guess what? Pew.
Oh yeah, it's like that in Faster Quest as well.
That's why, in Faster Quest, it's super off-putting, because it's like they immediately start attacking you.
Just jump into it. I'm like, guys, give me time. Like, do your spiel of a talk and then let me go. So this trick coming up here is called I think they call it a mega jump. I just call it a damage boost because that's really what it is. You're on the ledge and then you're letting this bomb hit you and then you get like a tiny bit of momentum and then you equip hover boots and then it kind of increases like your forward momentum. And that just skips us having to get like a few extra keys around Forest Temple because otherwise going around the normal way would have taken a lot longer. So having hover boots this early on, well not early on, but having hover boots in this dungeon helps out a fair bit. So
Breaks it.
Sorry?
Having hover boots when you're not supposed to have hover boots pretty much breaks all of the dungeons.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it just allows you to access so much stuff so fast that it's just like, oh.
It's ridiculous, yeah. Like these blocks here, I'm normally meant to have a strength upgrade for, but we're able to do something called a ground jump and then kind of clip through them. Ooh. And then using hover boots, we can actually skip that gap there. But I took that really wide and almost fell. So it looks like Tripp's under phase 2 now of Rover. So we don't actually complete Forest Temple, we just come here to literally get the bow and dip. And like, oh my goodness. What is this movement? So I could easily die to these next Stalfos coming up because there's like 3 of them. You fight one guy on his own, and then his death somehow spawns his mates, and then his mates try to wail on you. They double team you. Okay, so first guy's done. And then now we're gonna take on his cronies. So something that we're doing here, as you see, I do the first hit as a jump slash, and then every hit after that is a crouch stab. That's a technique called power crouch stabbing, where in this game, by default, your crouch stabs have a default damage value of 1, but if you do an attack prior to crouch stabbing, the crouch stabs then take the damage value of that last attack you did before crouch stabbing. So by doing a jump slash beforehand, and then doing crouch stabs after, all of my crouch stabs then have the same attack value as a jump slash, which for Adult Link, jump slash with a Master Sword has the highest damage output value. So that's the bow, and then I play Minuet to get out of the Forest Temple, and then we save, and then go back to the Temple of Time, and then this triggers the Light Arrows cutscene. And I'm guessing you're in the medallion cutscene now, Tripp?
Just talking to Nab.
Good old Naboo.
Nab. So the likelihood of me coming back is little low at the moment, but there's the collapse and Ganon fights in sequence, something could go wrong there, and then
yeah.
it could immediately go back to being even. So
Pretty much.
even though it looks like I'm probably gonna lose, there's still a chance I might not.
Oh no,
So
there's still
we
a
gotta
chance.
push through.
Ganondorf can like absolutely roll me. Rocks could hit me. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong at the end, as Tripp said, that it can literally be anyone's game. Like I said, I've seen people come back being 10 minutes behind the other runner. So, you know, anything can happen. Shouts to Nale.
Old nails.
Good old Nails. Yeah, he's a Swedish runner of ours, a really good friend of ours, and he's been making really good strides, wouldn't you say, Tripp? Like, he's been gunning it lately.
There's something to admire about people's ability to like no reset. I know it sounds like a bit like, oh yeah, you just played through the run, like you're just playing the game, so what? But having the mental endurance to go through, knowing that in your head the whole time you're saying this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and then still managing to get through it is really, really, really admirable. And Nale is one of those runners.
Oh yeah, easily.
You can just churn out no resets for like 10 hours and
Sounds
he'll
about
keep
right.
doing it. He'll keep doing it.
I've had
He'll
times
make
when,
you
like,
laugh the whole time.
I've had times when like I've gone to bed, wake up, and he's still on. I'm like, what the heck, Nale? He's like, hey, Mikami. I'm like, are you? He's like, yep. I'm like, okay. Yeah, as Tripp said, it's a big speed running. Like, you know, if we're just talking about speed running in general, it's a massive mental game. It's more mental than it is physical because, you know, Tripp and I, like, we practice the runs, we know the strats, we know the route, we know what to do. It's just A, being able to nail it in when it counts, and B, kind of keeping your cool and keeping your nerves down when, you know, things are either going your way or they're not going your way. So it's I think it's like anything, like even sports, it's like, you know, two people can train equal amounts and be of equal skill, but the guy that pulls through is the one that kind of keeps his cool in like match point situations. But yeah.
How much you're willing to put up with like yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. I think all of us speedrunners in chat can also relate to that. But yeah, Softy, if there's any donations have come through just now, go for it.
Yeah, and I can't say that anything has come through. But I mean, in that regard, I might have done the plug enough. I'll just quickly add. I mean, I agree entirely. It's so mentally focused. I mean, as someone who's been running on and off since like 2012, like usually it's the times when I'm running is when I don't really have that much else on, and the times when I'm not running is when I'm like silly busy. I think the only exception is like pre-ASMs in the past, like when I need to practice the hell out of a run. But usually, yeah, when, you know, when my mental bandwidth's already high, because I know that I'm just not going to be as successful, I'm not going to enjoy it as much, because it is a very mentally taxing thing.
Yeah,
Some
really
people
is.
just got it, you know? I mean, all power to them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they can just keep chugging it out, like you said, and just go through it.
Yeah, it's really, really admirable.
Yeah. And speaking of mental willpower and how frail it can be, we are raising money for Beyond Blue, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely a fantastic charity. As I said, over 11 grand. We're at about 11.3 right now. Can we get to 12 by the end of the marathon? Maybe. I mean, it's one more run left. It's definitely doable. $12,000 would mean. I mean, last year our record was about 7. Our goal this time was 5. So we'd be beating our record by our goal.
That's actually pretty crazy to think about. Oh my goodness.
That's yeah, as you said, it's pretty good.
It's nuts. I mean, like, it's just amazing to see how much like ASM, like us as a community, have grown as well. Like, we've had so many new runners. I think I can only imagine submissions have gone through the roof in recent years as well.
Yeah, the online marathon was about equal, because I know there are a lot of people who usually would submit that couldn't for various reasons. You know, it's all fair enough. So,
Yeah.
but it equaled out because there are so many people who are new. who had come along and said, "Yeah, I'll do some runs." So that was great. The online certainly attracted a few international people as well, which was fantastic. It was great to see just international runners wanting to get involved with what is and probably always will be a quintessential, at the very least, oceanic event. The community growth has been fantastic, and also the community retention. We've got people from 2015. So many of those people from 2015 are still here.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, I met you guys in 2016, so yeah, it's been a crazy ride seeing it all like come together. And I'm just happy that I've, like, you know, Tripp and I have been doing these races for these marathons, because I think speedrunners, we all know it can be quite a lonely endeavor at times, just grinding PBs and going for your runs and practice. But when you have someone to run with, I don't know, it changes the experience for me at least. Tripp, what do you think?
To keep you motivated, to keep you both motivated, is super important. Yeah. And I died again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's Stalfos. I was really confident in my head, I'm not gonna die. And then I died.
Stalfos are just big meanies as well.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part with Forest Temple, is that if you die at all here, you have to go all the way to the beginning. And basically redo all the tricks. At least I can maybe explain a little bit more of Forest Temple, because I have to redo it now. So, we do a ledge clip in here, like Mikami was explaining before. If you hold target on a specific frame, which is like the first frame of Link dropping onto the ledge, you can actually clip inside it. And that skips us having to actually go ahead and find some time and play it, because those blocks are actually kind of interesting. Depending on where the block is, it depends where it is in the timeline. So, for example, that blue block that's here as adult in the Forest Temple, if you come back here as child, that block won't be there. But if you play the Song of Time on that block as adult, and then come back to the same spot, then it will appear as child. And that applies to all of the blocks of time. So there's a couple, I think there's one in Fire Temple, there's one in Dampé's Grave, and they all are dependent on the timeline of either child or adult, which I thought is kind of nifty. Like, it's just a little thing that they remembered to keep track of, continuity-wise.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been running this game for 6 years and I did not know that. I actually didn't know that, so you just meant, I'm like, oh! Oh. All the other OT runs are like, for shame, Mikami. I didn't realize that, like, if you played it as adult, it'd bring it back as child Link. I was like, oh.
Yeah, they don't just disappear. They stay within the continuity of the world.
I thought they just dipped.
Yeah, I thought for the longest time they were just like, okay, bye, like they're just over it and dip, but nah. They go either 7 years behind or 7 years ahead.
Holy crap! Well, the more I learn.
You'll also notice when I'm walking down these twisted corridors, I'm side hopping to the left. That's because there's actually a Navi text trigger there, and she says like, "Oh, whoa, it's so spinny in here," as if you couldn't figure that out by yourself. So if we just skip over her little segment there, then she doesn't have her little, obvious sort of pointing out that the room is twisted, which saves a couple of seconds. It's kind of funny as well, because I think a lot of people would think that Navi's really annoying, but she's actually quite useful for OOT, because she's actually the trigger that lets you get a lot of the glitches going, like ISG. She can even, in fact, give you ISG if you have her active on your seat up. You can get ISG by triggering her talking to you while interrupting the couch tab animation. Alright, got through the Stalfos this time.
Nice. So now I have to take on this this pesky guy known as Dorf.
I
Or
got to
as
Dolph already. Oh damn.
I did something earlier while we called it trial skip, where instead of having to complete all the mini dungeons in Ganon's castle, we're able to clip through the barrier, and there's like a tiny loading. There's a tiny part of the barrier that's like actually a trigger for the loading zone, and we're able to trigger that and get through and climb up Ganondorf's tower. So this fight is really scary because he can easily become like world's best tennis player if I'm not careful. So let's hope.
Yeah, I've had a situation before where I've had him volley back 35 times, and he won that game.
35 times?
Yeah.
What? Oh my goodness.
And I was on pace for like a top 4, no wrong warp, no SRM run at the time. So I was 30 seconds ahead, played a 35 round of tennis, and lost the entire run.
Yeah, I got lucky there. He didn't play tennis with me. I've had my last 2 races with other people. He's decided to just do a good return to serve, and I just get wrecked. But this time wasn't as bad. So now this is part of the tower collapse. There's a trick coming up here that we call void warp. To this day, I still don't. Is it like we void out, but then we also hit the trigger of like a loading zone for the next area or something, Tripp?
So what, as far as I understand how it works, we're loading into the next segment of the tower before on the same frame that it's voiding us out. So what happens is that it uses the coordinates from the first map and applies those to the next loading zone. So because it's using the coordinates for the top of the tower, not for the first room in the tower, it allows us to basically spawn outside of it and fall all the way down to the bottom to skip it. It was a bit of a tentative argument about whether or not void warp counts as a wrong warp. It was a bit of a tough sort of decision because what would happen. I guess it's if you were to respawn in that room, you would respawn at those coordinates, but then because it's like in the wrong spot, is it a wrong warp? Eventually it was decided that it doesn't count as a wrong warp, it just counts as a like out of bounds trick. And the thing about it is that all of these rocks around the top of the castle are RNG. They'll randomly fall, and they can randomly hit you and randomly kill your run and kill your setup.
I almost got hit. It spawned like right near the fingertips, and I'm like, oh no.
We want to be specifically damaged by a bomb in that very specific spot for the tricks to actually work. So if we get hit by a bomb at by a rock at any point, that isn't at any point, we either have to. We take damage, which is bad in certain situations. We also have to redo a setup to get the exact position again. And if we get hit by a rock while hanging down, there's always a chance that it will just void us out. Which, again, depending on how many hearts and stuff you have, can lose like a minute and a half. And it's like right at the very end of the run.
Yeah, I failed the kiss setup. I was like, oh, I might be able to do this. I'm like, how the hell did I fail the kiss setup? What Liquid was mentioning in chat called the kiss is if you're in a very specific spot when Zelda opens up that last door before the tower collapses, it looks like she's like right up against you. It looks like she's giving you a bit of a kiss.
Smoochies.
Smoochies, exactly. And people often think it's for show, which it is, but it also saves like 2 frames over us having to do anything else, because when you're right up against Zelda, she gives you the kiss, she actually pushes you into the next area like immediately, so it saves me from having to walk out. So yeah, it saves 2 frames. And
it saves more than that. I think it saves like upwards of a second, because I swear, like I'll be like a second away from golding if I don't get a kiss. Sometimes 2 seconds, which is like 40 frames. So like, you gotta save them frames, man.
Yeah,
might not sound like a lot.
Yeah, someone said 2 frames. I was like, really? Only 2? I was like, I swear it takes me longer to walk there.
Maybe it just depends on when you split, I guess. Some people have different timings for when they split.
That's true.
depending on when certain cutscenes load or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I just did a super slide into this cutscene. It's one of the texts that Tripp mentioned earlier. The reason we do that is because normally with this fight, Ganon knocks away your Master Sword. But if you super slide into this cutscene and hold your shield, even though he knocks away your Master Sword, because you're holding shield, the Master Sword still stays in your inventory. And if we didn't have that, it means that if I didn't have the Master Sword, all of my items would only do one hit. And by doing one hit, it means the fight would take 10 hits for phase 1, and then I get the Master Sword back. But now that I've got this Master Sword, it's only going to take 3 hits of his tail because I've stored a crouch stab beforehand. So it just speeds things up a lot. Other categories like MST, another category that I run, if you have another weapon where you can crouch stab with, that can also maintain the power crouch stab damage. So in that category, we get Megaton Hammer. So we opt to not super slide into the cutscene because we still have something we can crouch stab with. Oh, okay.
Things like the Biggoron sword or the hammer, or I guess sticks work as well if you're child versing Ganon, or if you can equip swap, but there's no need for us to equip swap. GSR, or we can't anymore.
So that's second phase. It's always a bit scary because Ganon can hit you for 4 hearts as well. Is it 4? Yeah. It's not fun. I've died to Ganon before. I've died to Ganon last year when we were doing the marathon run, like at ASM. It was not fun at all. So for me, that was a 125.54. Oh boy. Oh yeah, so why do I get 2 Master Swords? Because he technically knocks away one, and then you pick it up again, which is actually really useful in the any percent category because you don't actually get the Master Sword, and the final hit, well, on an older route, the final hit against Ganon needs to be with the Master Sword. But because you don't actually get it with this old route where you walk from Deku Tree to Ganon's castle, runners were a bit worried that will we be able to finish the run, but in the second phase you conveniently pick it up again, and then it just happens to allow us to complete the run. Like it's so nice that it works like that.
Just starting the collapse sequence here, I'll elaborate a bit more about how things actually work now that we have a little bit of spare time. So what the game actually checks for the Rainbow Bridge to spawn, like Mikami mentioned before, is that it checks for the Shadow and Spirit and Light Arrows. Shadow and Spirit medallions, that is. And I guess the reason why it only really checks for those 3 things is because normally what happens to access the Shadow Temple, you need the Nocturne of Shadow. And the only way to get Nocturne of Shadow is to beat the Forest, Fire, and Water Temple, because the game checks to see if you have those 3 medallions before it plays the cutscene for the Nocturne of Shadow. So it kind of has like this in-between check, but just because of that slight oversight where it's kind of checking them in 2 parts, we're able to skip essentially the full first part. Another thing about as well with Trial Skip, for some reason the loading zone into Ganon's castle on the wall that is opposite of the water trial, like the whole thing is a loading zone for some reason. I don't really know why. So we can do a little hover up there, which allows us to clip into the loading zone through the wall, which saves us having to... I almost just got so smashed by a knuckle.
Oh jeez.
Anyway.
Holy crap.
Try to commentate and concentrate. It's very difficult. Anyway, so we're able to just hover into the loading zone there to skip doing all the trials. So we're just gonna come up. Normally you can do a little Hess here, but I don't have the bombs. Well, I mean I technically do, but it's hardly worth it, and it will only save 4 seconds.
Yeah, the Hess is it's. I failed it just now as well. I was like, I'm not gonna risk the bomb count.
Mm. So, yeah, I mean, this again, it may seem like a pretty daunting category, but especially when you get to the level that Ray and I are at, where one sort of major mistake on things like this, and your run's basically a reset.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
It's very difficult to like play at a decent level consistently for like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. So we're probably at the level where you can make a few movement mistakes like here and there, but if you mess up a trick, you're basically just you're donezo. It's really hard to recuperate.
Like for example, when I failed the first cycle of the inverted camera in bottom of the well, I would have reset on a normal run because that wastes like 20 seconds. And I think likewise with Tripp, when he failed that damage boost to the ledge in the castle area before Zelda's Lullaby, like he would have reset there as well because that's wasting a chew.
Guards, getting caught by guards.
Guards as well, yeah.
Like, we just say, you know what? Nah.
Yeah, exactly. You just
yeah,
resign.
Yeah, nah, reckon.
You just resign. You're like, yeah, I'm done.
Bugger it.
Bugger, yeah, exactly. Bugger it. Oh. So it looks like.
So there's a perfect case of Wimbledon tennis match here from good old.
The Australian Open, please.
Yes, Australian Open. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
So he actually reflected the lightning ball back at me. Luckily, I had enough health to cop it. Oh my god, there was a hole in the floor.
Oh my goodness.
Dude! This is why Ganon can be a bit of a bully. Is there a...
There's a massive bully.
Another heart. I just want to make sure I don't get accidentally rolled by another lightning ball.
So yeah, normally, as Quills mentioned just now, in other categories we actually have a bottle. And if we have a bottle, it actually makes this fight like infinitely easier because
it's stupid easy with a bottle. Oh my god!
Because the bottle has a massive swing arc, so for some reason it's much more effective than using a sword. All Link has to do is just swipe his bottle, and it's like as if he's done a spin slash, like what Tripp was doing there. And it's just way nicer. But this category that we do, we don't actually get a bottle, so. This makes life like...
Oh, this is such a mess. He keeps punching holes in the floor.
I hate it when he does like the downward punch, yeah. Oh my goodness, Tripp, be careful.
Please. So yeah, the bottle is really convenient because it has more active frames to actually hit the lightning ball back. With the sword, it's a lot more...
Oh my goodness, the hole.
Monk-ass.
Yeah, way more active frames than the sword. So when we get the bottle in a route and we have to fight Ganondorf, we're just like, phew, this fight's like way easier. But in this category, it's like, okay, this can actually be a little bit scary.
Can you give me a good shot, please?
Oh my goodness. I think you're gonna get hit there.
It's been so trolly. I like don't want to get hit and I keep falling off.
Oh my goodness, what are these shots he's firing?
Dude, that's just so badly angled. I can't like get a good reflect off without, you know, copping a shot.
Oh no. One Dorf, be nice.
Dorfman. Here we go. There we go, okay.
Oh, the Dorf fight, I swear, man, it's like, it's so trolly. We've both lost runs here as well, I bet.
Oh yeah, hundreds of times. That's the issue, like, if you get used to having the luxury of a bottle in a lot of rounds, then I kind of forget how to fight him.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, how do we fight this guy again? I have to watch like Valiant's or like Count's run and be like, oh, that's how you fight him.
Yeah, I think I need to learn how to do the proper Habble spin move method.
It's really, really handy because it puts you in a really good spot, and I've only been reflected once, but that's because I started moving to like one of the directions too late. It's, other than that, very consistent.
doing everything I can to make sure that we're gonna hit estimate for this, for this run.
Alright, while we're in cutscene, I'll just read out a couple of quick donations that have come through in the last little while.
Yeah, go for it.
Mango Punch donated $42.97, saying GG to all the runners, organisers, hosts, and everyone working behind the scenes to bring yet another fantastic ASM. Always an honour and a blast to be part of such an amazing event for a charity that's so close to many of our hearts. Love you all. Donation goes to getting Tony Hawk to appear at next event's Hawk Block. We'll see. I mean, start adding him on Twitter.
Oh my goodness, is that actually going to be a thing? Are we trying to do that?
I mean, no.
You would,
But
though.
please don't.
You
That
would.
was a joke. Please don't. Please don't. But hey, you never know. I mean, you never know. Sometimes, I mean, Tony Hawk seems like a pretty cool dude.
He's a
Might
really cool dude.
might Skype in or something. But again, no. Please do not start adding him. But also, Smorgy donated $16.65, saying good luck, runners, and also shout out to Mikami, go Power Rangers.
Aye, thanks, Marcus. He's a fellow OOT runner as well, and world record holder of every single category in Shovel Knight. So, yeah, he's a pretty crazy runner. He does Ocarina of Time as well from time to time, but I think his focus has been in Shovel Knight for the last while. So,
Just note there is that normally there's some falling rocks that you can avoid or roll away from, but a neat little trick there is that if you hold shield just after the rocks that are on the ground, you'll actually just block them, which is kind of convenient because a byproduct of doing collapse skip is that you take a lot of damage because you still technically void out. And voiding out, I think, loses a heart. So you need to have a bare minimum of 2.5 hearts for the trick to work. Also, another interesting thing about this particular cutscene, it can actually lose you time depending completely on RNG. So you'll notice here a bunch of just rocks and debris and everything just randomly spawning. All of that debris causes lag. So depending on how much debris actually gets generated, you can lose upwards here, just based on cutscene RNG. So for categories like defeat Ganon with no SRM, it can pretty much be the tell between a world record and second place, just based on that RNG.
it's pretty gnarly as well. Like, I think there was a race I did a couple of last year with Jelstar. I was like slightly ahead, and then we both pretty much entered the collapse cutscene at the exact same time, and then he pulled ahead by like a second because my tower took longer to collapse than his did. And I was like, okay, fine, thanks, game.
Apologies for going slightly overestimate. Took us a little bit, but just heading into the final fight with G-Man here. Hopefully I don't die.
Less RNG.
But yeah, as Mika said before, if we super slide into the cutscene, the game registers the shield being hit instead of Link's sword being hit away. And the Master Sword deals 4 damage to Ganon specifically, while every other item deals 1 damage. So I think in the first phase he has 10 health.
Yeah, I think
so
10.
we managed to do 12 to him, which makes it only do 3 hits rather than 10. Also makes it a lot safer because there's less chances he'll actually like swing at you.
Yeah, otherwise, if we didn't have the sword, or worst case scenario, we mess up that super slide, we'd have to use either the hook shot, bombs, or arrows to hit his tail 10 times. And Gabon is not exactly the nicest to us either.
He can be a bit erratic sometimes with how fast he decides to attack as well. Sometimes he can be really slow, and sometimes he can be really, really fast.
Alright, bless that this second phase goes well.
So that's a good example of invincibility frames and invincibility on rolls. So you might have saw I actually got hit by Ganon there, but I didn't take any damage. It's because of the invincibility there. So that's kind of a godsend, because otherwise we would have been waiting here another 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I just saw it.
Ah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because like I
So,
said, Ganon
coming
hits you
up
for free.
to time on the final hit here.
Whew.
And apologies for going a bit overestimate. But, oh well. More time
GS.
to donate, right?
Yeah, almost at that 12k.
And that's it. It's time. GG.
GG's, buddy. That was fun.
So yeah, thanks ASM. Thanks to the tech crew for hosting us and organizing everything, especially with pandemics getting in the way of things. Appreciate Mikami for racing me. It's always a tough fight whenever we're Mikami versus someone, but it makes for a good show.
It was fun, man. Like we did that race last year, and I hope we can do more races going forward.
Yeah. And if you guys are interested at all in more OOT content, or if you have more questions or anything like that, please, it is very appreciated if you hit us both up with a follow. You can twitch.tv/TripppAU with 3Ps, or MikamiHero. Again, we stream pretty regularly. We're happy to answer any questions. We can point you to where you need to go for resources and how to get into things and have your own little community and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
buddy.
yeah, thanks Softy as well for hosting and
Yeah, thanks,
reading
Softy.
donos.
Shouts to ASM. Always having
Yeah, no,
us.
thank you very much to both of you for that race. It was fantastic, most appreciated, and yeah, great to join in on the conversation. Coming up next is our final run of the event, which is Donkey Kong Country by, as said, the ever legendary Nay underscore. And he will be coming up very shortly. The entire marathon's been running off of his computer, essentially. So, what a legend, what a trooper. And he will be closing the marathon for us. So we're going to cut to an intermission. Stay tuned. We'll be back momentarily.
In. Woo!
Whew.
Oh, and $20. We owe each $20.
That's right. We'll do that during Nay's blog.